Well, hello everyone. Um, Happy Friday to you. I know, in the midst of all of this, that's a little strange to hear, because most of us, if you're like me, you don't even know what day of the week it is. I know Pastor Chad and I were struggling the other day. We knew it was Thursday, but we couldn't tell you which Thursday in May it was. So. Uh, yeah, it's just one of those things. So I want to dive into this, pretty fast. I did the map. It is not to scale. So, I see Pastor Chad's one of the first ones on here. No judging me on the scale. But the section that we're going to read in First Peter, it's really important to understand where he was writing to and what was actually taking place. So we are going to dive into a passage that a lot of women hate. I know that women really hate the one that Paul said, and they just kind of hate the one that Peter said. But it still has its moments. But I think it has its moments because we don't understand what it's truly saying. So I'm going to read the scripture really quick. And I promise I picked a shorter one than I did last time. I apologize for that. But I'm going to dive into that, and I'm going to use an NIV. I'm going to use a commentary. This is a NBBC. It's a Nazarene Bible College. I'm going to use the Holman Bible Atlas and Discovering the New Testament. Okay, now again, like I've said before, I am a book nerd, so I have the books. Everything that we're going to talk about, you can actually get online for free. There are a bunch of different commentaries. You can't get the NBBC commentaries online. You would have to purchase those, but there are a ton of really good ones out there. You can ask Pastor Chad or me, or even research it yourself. There's David Gusick. He does some really good ones. John Wesley's commentaries are always really good. I'm a big fan of Adam Clark. So it just depends on your personal preference, but you can get the majority of those for free if you choose. So we're going to do 1 Peter 3, verses 1 through 7. So we have, wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives when they see the purity and reverence of your lives. Your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. For this is the way the holy women of the past, who put their hope in God, used to adorn themselves. They submitted themselves to their own husbands, like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord. You are her daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Now, there's a lot of stuff in that passage, and again, some people fight against it, and some people, use it as a weapon. The reality is, both of those scriptures are designed for both. They're designed for both men and women. So in 1st and 2nd Peter, Peter was writing to a group found right in this area right here. So today it would be modern day Turkey. If you read in chapter 1, the first couple of verses, he tells you the different names of the cities that he's talking to, but they're all found right here. Now you have to keep in mind, you have Greece right here, and what is now modern day Libya, Egypt. Israel is here, the Jordan is here. So actually the Red Sea is right about here. Then you have Syria, Iraq, Russia. You have the Black Sea, the Aegean Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea. During the time frame that Peter wrote this, the people who lived in this area, this entire area was under Roman rule. But this particular area, they had influence from Greece, so they had a lot of mythology that was feeding into it, along with the Roman. There was some Egyptian beliefs that had made their way through, as well as some Middle Eastern, again, mythology type things. So they were being inundated. They were Nero at this point in time. He was in charge in Rome, and he was devastating Christians everywhere, especially in this area. So this is a group of people that were oppressed on every side, not just for their religious beliefs, but the color of their skin, the jewelry and different things that they wore. All of these things were playing a part, and they were being attacked. So Peter's purpose in writing this is to give them hope. You know, yes, he's telling them some things to do, but his primary purpose in this is to say, don't lose hope. You know, there's a better way. So when you look at that scripture, and then you look at what was taking place, not only during that time, but you also have to go all the way back to Abraham, because he mentions both Sarah and Abraham. And he talks about Sarah submitting herself to Abraham. But think about the things that you've read regarding Sarah in Genesis. She was mouthy. She stood her ground. She was aggressive when she needed to be. But more than anything, and this is the reason that Peter put this in here, she loved her husband. You didn't mess with her family. But more than anything, you didn't mess with her husband. And in that day and age, if a woman was seen as beautiful, they would kill, you know, any king would kill the husband just to take the wife. So because Sarah loved her husband so much, she didn't wear jewelry. She covered her hair. She did all of those things to make herself look less beautiful, because this was a very beautiful woman. And she did that because she didn't want her husband to be hurt. And then, you know, Peter mentions Abraham. Look at the way Abraham treated Sarah. He treated her with a respect. He loved her. And he would do anything to keep her safe, even though some of the things that he did were kind of wacky, when he had her pretend to be his sister just to keep the two of them alive. You know, we would look at that today and say, yeah, that's a little crazy, but he did that because he loved her. So that's what Peter is saying, you know, again, you know, more than anything. And you think about during the time that Peter wrote this, when you have the Greek influence, women were goddesses. The prettier they were, the more adorned in jewelry and fine clothes and things like that, the better they were treated. And I said that wrong. They were worshipped. And when you think about what we do, you know, just even in our homes, I don't want my husband to worship me. I want my husband to be my partner. And that's what Peter's saying here. Women, you don't want to put yourself in that position. You want to be a partner with your spouse. Husbands, you want to be a partner with your wife. She's your co-heir. You know, you're not her boss, you know, like pound her with a fist. You're partners. Each one of you brings a different gift. He mentions women being the weaker sex in there. Now, just like Pastor Chad, I'm going to pay for this a little bit later, but let's stop and think about that. If you go back to Adam and Eve, when, you know, like we talked about last week in chapter 3, in the fall, men were going to have to work the soil. They were going to have to work the ground, and it was going to be painful. And women were going to struggle in childbearing. Okay? I have seen my husband work outside all day long, and he will come inside with a gash on his leg, just this side of needing stitches. And I'll ask him what happened. And most of the time he looks at me and says, I didn't even know I did it. Because again, it's an outside pain. It's one of those things. If he gets a cold or the flu, he's on the couch wishing that the world would end, because it's an internal pain. Now you take me and you flip it. I go outside, I get a little nick, and I'm screaming for Bob to carry me inside. But yet, give me a cold or the flu and I'm cleaning the house and cooking dinner, because it's an internal pain. And again, that's what Peter's talking about here. But the overall theme that Peter's talking about here is love. So as you're studying the Bible, and you're coming up with all of these things, I'm going to leave you with this one question. What if we loved each other the way Abraham and Sarah did? What kind of a world would this be if we loved everybody the way those two loved each other? Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you online on Sunday. Thanks, guys.
You better be done.